Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very experienced podcaster, someone much, much more experienced than me, Nansi Mishra. Nansi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosha, for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Really
Nansi, thank you. Thank you, Nansi. Nansi is the co-founder of 100X Entrepreneur Podcast. And in 2021, she was one of the top voices on LinkedIn. So Nansi, let's talk about podcasting. Tell me about what made you start 100X Entrepreneur Podcast.
Yeah. So my husband, Siddharth, he had his own startup called Baby Gogo. He started his own startup in 2014, if I'm not wrong. It was a software he made for doctors. He started this startup in a tier 2 city in UP along with two co-founders.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 years, he pivoted to a content platform. It was called Baby Gogo. It was a mother and baby care platform where mothers could, ask queries about their child's health and about their health also. And I was among the key members of the team, and that startup got acquired by a larger startup called Shiros. Shiros is India's largest women-only social media network.
Yeah.
And when our startup got acquired and we became a part of Shiro's team, we thought that to start something next time, we have to be better entrepreneurs. We have to keep learning about what happens in the startup when you run a startup, and we could learn the journey of 0 to 1. And now we wanted to learn what happens in 1 to 10, 10 to 100. So with that intention, we started interacting with our existing investors. And what we did, we shared all those conversations with people on social media. And we got a very good response from people in the startup ecosystem. And that's how 100X Entrepreneur was born.
Amazing, amazing. So tell me, what goes into making a successful podcast?
There are so many things, I believe, but the number one among all those things is consistency. It's been 2+ years for us at 100X Entrepreneur, and a lot happened in the last 2-3 years, but we never missed sharing an episode each week. So consistency is really, really important because it helps you building a followership. It help, people can connect with you. They know when you will be releasing the episode, and when they are connected with you from day one, they start enjoying your journey. They connect with your story, how you are growing, how they are growing with your podcast with each episode. And they share feedback, they share they cheer you up when you are feeling low, when you don't feel like showing up. So consistency is one thing, very, very important thing for all the podcasters out there. There are other things also, like bringing guests, what kind of content you want to put out there, what kind of guest you want to bring, and things like that.
Fascinating. And in a very, very crowded world of podcasts, how does one market a podcast to be able to get a large viewership or listenership?
So I think it requires a lot of work, constant work on the feedback we get from our audience, from our guest. So after the podcast is done, we ask our guest, how was your experience? How do you think we can improve our questions? And if you can add any suggestions. And same thing happens with we do with our listeners. We ask for their feedback, and whenever they share any feedback, we make sure we work on that. And that's how you improve, and that's how you build a story for your podcast. That's how people connect with you, and you create a brand for yourself. Okay. And let's take example of all the D2C brands that are doing extremely well. There's so much competition for them, but those who started with the right reason, with the right story, they are doing extremely well, and they could stand out.
Correct. Well said. And from a traditional or a conventional marketing perspective, when I spent all my life in marketing and branding, one of the most important factors how to have a brand succeed is what they call repeat purchase, right? So if I'm buying a soap and if I keep buying it over and over again, that's how the volumes come.
Yeah.
How do you build loyalty so that your customer or your listener keeps coming back to your podcast?
Yeah, so as I said, it requires a lot of constant work on the feedback you get from your listeners.
Mm,
There are listeners who who share feedback on audio video quality, and we tell them that we are working on it. And we also reach out to other podcasters for their suggestion
mm,
on how we can improve. And if there are listeners who are suggesting the guests they want to listen to on the podcast, we tell them that we'll definitely bring them on the podcast, and we keep updating them what we are doing at 100x Entrepreneur, what guests we are bringing. We also have a newsletter,
mm,
so we are also building a community of people.
mm,
So it's not like we are just sharing our podcast and we are not bothered what people
mm,
have to say, what are their feedback. So we have a community of 20,000 people. We share weekly newsletter to all these people, and they get back to us on those emails
mm.
at how was their like about their feedback, and how we can improve, and what other guests we can bring on the podcast. So that's how
Fascinating.
loyalty built. Yeah.
Fascinating. And this is such an important thing that you are telling everyone, that it's important to keep getting feedback from your consumer or your customer. I mean,
Yes.
amazing. So the next question, Nancy, is that what are some of the challenges most podcasters face?
There are so many challenges. One obviously is getting the dream guest on your podcast. You already have the bar high, so you already have a list ready. You keep reaching out to so many people. You are cold emailing and but bombarding their Twitter DMs and LinkedIn DMs. So getting the dream guest is one common challenge. Other like we used to record all our podcast offline, but when COVID hit, we had to move online. So the challenge was to find out the best tools other podcasters are using.
Mm,
So we started reaching out to these podcasters. We ourselves did a lot of
mm,
research how what tools we can use for recording,
mm.
editing, doing transcript, and going live. And I'm sorry, I just forgot the question.
No, I said, what are some of the challenges a lot of podcasters face?
Yeah, so finding out the right kind of tool is
Mm,
challenge, and the major challenge is distribution,
mm,
because suppose if a celebrity starts a podcast, they
mm.
already have a massive followership.
Correct.
They can shift that followership to this new thing they are doing, but it becomes a challenge for podcasters who are not like known name in the industry, and they are starting from zero. So
Mm.
distribution is key challenge
Very
for
interesting.
podcasters like me.
Very, very interesting. And you just mentioned that you've been looking at different formats of technology. My question is that how is technology changing podcasting over the last 3 or 4 years that you've been doing it?
Technology has solved a lot of problems for podcasters. As I mentioned, we used to record all our podcast offline. We used to visit all these guest
Mm,
offices. We used to wait for sometimes, and sometimes if the podcast gets like cancelled or postpones, we like one day is wasted.
mm,
So these problems are now being solved by technology. After COVID, we pushed ourselves. We were not enjoying online thing,
mhm,
because offline in the offline setup, the conversation is more interactive, I believe,
mm,
and you are talking about other things also. You are visiting their office, and sometimes they show you their office and make you meet other colleagues there. So but so we were not very excited about going online, recording online, but it really helped us.
mm,
It saved a lot of time and energy. We could record 2-3 podcasts in a day
mm,
without getting exhausted.
mm.
And we now have like doing transcript is such a heavy task,
Correct.
but with tools like Otter, you can just
Mm,
finish it within 2-3 hours. So
mm.
these problems technology has solved for us podcasters.
Very interesting. And what are your thoughts on a mix of video and audio for podcast. Do you think there is a balance between the two, or is there a shift taking place?
So I think we have to bring the balance, because for distribution we have to do it.
Hmm.
It's really important to leverage all the platforms we have. Yesterday only we hosted one very well known content creator on our podcast,
Mhm.
Raj Shamani. He mentioned a very important point during our conversation with him, that whenever, like, there are so many platforms available, you have to not only leverage all the platforms but all the new features they are releasing. So you have to do same thing with podcasts also.
Hmm.
So if platforms are given, you have to utilize all the platforms to hack or crack the distribution for you. So it's like, because people in India still, there are so many people in India who still prefer to watch video.
Hmm.
So it will help you in distribution, in cracking distribution, if you record video also and share it on YouTube. So we
Hmm.
have recently started doing it for our YouTube channel.
Very interesting. So, you also mentioned in the beginning that you've, uh, been a startup entrepreneur yourself, and 100x is also a startup company. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on startups. What, according to you, based on your own experience and so many conversations you've had, what are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
uh, I think starting with the wrong reason is one of the common mistakes.
Mm,
As I shared example of these D2C brands like Mama Earth, Sugar,
mm,
Mom's Company, and Neiman's, there
mm,
are like well-known D2C brands in India. They started with the right reasons.
mm,
It was really challenging to launch a lipstick brand for Indian people, for Asian people,
mm,
because there were so many big players. But Vinita and her husband Kaushik, they started with the right reason,
mm,
that it is a problem for Asian people to find out lipstick for their skin tone.
mhm,
The story was really nice, and she rejected a very huge offer from MNC, if I'm not wrong,
mhm,
to pursue entrepreneurship. So
mm,
when you start with the right reason,
mm,
people around you start, not initially, but after some time they also start believing in you, because there is something you have a very strong belief about. So
mm.
they start connecting with your journey. So always start with the right reason, I would say,
Oh, wonderful.
because it's a very long journey.
Mm,
It takes at least 4 5 years initially to build that initial traction, to build initial set of customers. So
mm,
if you are not really passionate about your story, about the reason you started with, you'll get exhausted.
mm,
And once there is a point when you don't enjoy your work,
mm.
it won't work for
Very,
yourself, for your team.
very well said. The other question regarding entrepreneurs or startups is that everyone wants to be pan India, everyone wants to be global. My question to you, Nancy, is at what stage should you start scaling up?
I'm not sure about answering this question,
Okay.
because I run a podcast. I'm not. I don't have much experience to
No
answer this
worries.
question.
No worries.
But for podcast, I can answer.
Okay.
We have started hosting guests from US, from UK, and there are so many Indian people sitting in US,
Mhm.
working in US, and they enjoy your podcast. So don't limit your thing that this is India only thing.
Mm,
Like for at least for podcast, you can make it global.
mm,
Like you don't have to push yourself that you have to bring so many guests all over the world,
mm,
because in that case people won't connect with you. So start with like but don't limit yourself, I would say. Like we started with hosting VCs initially. We
mhm,
hosted 90 plus VCs.
mm,
At that point of time we thought, let's start hosting entrepreneurs also. People will be able to enjoy conversations with entrepreneurs also.
mm,
After some point we started hosting from people across the world. So that's how, because till that time we had built a listenership,
Mm-hmm.
who could trust us. They knew that the people we will be bringing, because chances are they are not aware of those people who don't belong to India. But when they trust you, they listen to that episode also. Yeah. So there are stages. You can't take like that big step in the initial phase.
Fascinating. So, Nancy, I've got time for a couple of more questions, and I'm going to ask you a few questions because, like you said, several of our viewers and listeners do write back and say, "Can we get to know the guest a little better?" So, a few questions for you personally. Um, who or what inspires you to keep on doing such amazing podcasts?
Uh, as an entrepreneur, as a woman, I'm really inspired by Vinita Singh. She's the founder of Sugar Cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
uh, when we started 100x Entrepreneur, we were really motivated, and every conversation was very exciting. And we used to go to these guest offices, and we used to commute through metro. So you always, me and my husband, we used to carry our laptop bag with all the mics and
Mm-hmm.
filters, laptop etc. And while coming back to our home, we used to share each other's feedback and what we really liked about that guest and things like that. But then after 1.5 year, I became mom. Everything changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything, but mostly, like most of the things changed for me. My routine changed. My mental health got affected. I lost a lot of weight. Like
Mm-hmm.
I lost almost 15 kg.
Wow.
I lost almost half of my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not feeling very nice. And I started feeling so negative that my like at one point of time I thought that the work I'm doing is not sufficient. I should do more. And because I was not able to do more work, I was feeling more bad about myself, because I had babies, so I couldn't work for 4 or 5 hours for
Mm-hmm.
my office thing. So during that time, I got to know about Vinita. I followed her on Twitter, and she shared about her journey as an entrepreneur, as a mother. She shared in one of the tweets that she's not a good mother. She
Mm-hmm.
sometimes feels, because it's very difficult to bring the balance. And because Vinita is well known, she has already created an impact. She really influenced me
Amazing.
that yeah, like balance is not doing everything. Balance is getting to do what you enjoy. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Nancy, my last question to you, and this is a question on failure. I'm much, much older than you, but I know that when I was coming out of school, etc., I've often said that parents in Asia don't teach children it's okay to fail. You're always taught class में first आओ, line में सबसे आगे जाओ, etc., etc. And that manifests itself in our behavior patterns. Yet we fail, we learn.
Yeah.
My question to you is, what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes?
So, as you said, parents have a limited, vision for their kids. They want their kids to become a doctor, teacher, CA,
Doctors, lawyers, engineers,
engineer.
IAS.
Yeah. So my parents, like me and my brother, we both have been really well. We did really well in our academics. So.
Mhm.
Uh, my mother wanted me to become a CA, and I cleared my first stage of CA. But I during that time I took admission in Delhi University College, and I was observing all the students around me. They were enjoying all the things they were doing. They were taking part. They were participating in debating society, and dancing and. Basketball, other things, but I was not at all aware of those things.
Mhm.
I don't blame my parents for that. They had their different challenges.
Mhm.
But I didn't have anything else to do apart from studies. But
Mhm.
there came a point in my life when I was not in studies. I was constantly feeling that my communication is weak. I really
Mhm.
need to learn more things. I don't know much about apart from the study thing.
Mhm.
And so that got me like I appeared. I got to work with startup, because that time I thought that I won't be able to join a big company. Nobody will hire me. So I applied for an internship in a startup, and fortunately I got that internship,
Mm,
and that was very like that phase made me learn so many things.
mm,
So I really enjoyed that phase in my life.
mm,
I got to work on so many things, and I could discover what I really enjoy doing. I was not at all clear about my interest in life, in
mm,
my career
mm.
specifically. So I think that was mistake. Failure, I wouldn't say. I dropped out of CA, so I don't know if I will call it a failure, but that was a very good learning experience for me.
Fantastic. And just to tell you that uh, it's not you, you're very young, but the same situation was there 40 years ago also. You'd go, I also went to Delhi University and I was completely clueless on what I wanted to do. But life evolves and we all learn and we keep on getting better and better at it.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
I have recently learned that happiness is not happiness is a process, like,
correct,
and happiness comes from solving problems. So you
correct.
just have to pick better problems for yourself, and you'll be happy.
How nice. What a great comment to make. But Nancy, on that, thank you very much. It's been such a privilege speaking to you. Thank you for talking to me so much about podcasting. I've learned lots of new things from you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
again
much.
and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. I hope I could add value.
Of course you did. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.